welcome to GANYC's monthly meeting for October. My name is Emma. I'm a guest co-host. I'm president of GANYC. Welcome to our meeting and welcome to the lovely Elizabeth Foundation for the Arts. It's really an extraordinary space. Really happy to be here. We'll be hearing from them in just a little while as part of our meeting's agenda. So I hope everyone received a copy of the agenda when you came in, when you signed in. You could all give a quick look over. Is there any new business anyone would need to have added to the agenda? Any pressing matters that we can add to discuss? Anything? No? Okay, all in favor of the agenda as is? Okay, all good? All right. We're going to do things in a slightly different order because we're going to have the speakers from the Elizabeth Foundation speaking back to back, speaking one after another. So I'm just going to go right into my report. A couple things to mention. We have a little change coming up to our bylaws. John Ventura of the Constitution Committee will be going over that. And that is that within a board 2-year term, the dues will be adjusted. Use that term. It will be adjusted. And so we'll be talking about that. And this is time to have any questions and answers about why we're doing that and what we're doing. And so going along with that, don't forget that renewals are coming up soon and the dues have changed. So when you get your renewal notice starting November 1st, all right, November 1st, right through the ball drop, okay, basically, it's $150. After that, it'll be $175. Okay, so and we'll be discussing part of Jonathan's discussion is instead of doing just one big rate, raising the dues all at once, one fell swoop, to being adjusted okay, in a little easier way. Okay, so keep in mind you get that early bird discount, and we sincerely hope, of course, everyone will be renewing as soon as you get your renewal notice. Okay, and those will be automated coming out November 1st. Speaking of renewals, we also want new members. We've had, I think, 7 new members in the past month or so, and we're constantly getting new people. And what's so gratifying is a lot of the new members are bringing in more new members, which is really what we want. We want to grow GANYC. I see a lot of new faces here. I see some people who may be guests here for the first time. You may have their first GANYC meeting. So I really welcome you, and please come up and speak to me afterwards. Come up and speak to the other board members, speak to the other GANYC members. We really are a welcoming and fun bunch, and we'd love you to join us as well. Now, we've been doing some great things over the past few weeks. We had a wonderful event on the waiver tree, the trivia contest. Okay, it was a lot of fun. Mark Levy organized it. He helped organize it. So it was GANYC and the South Street Seaport together. And so we split the profits, made a little over $400, which is not too shabby. Okay, we had a great time. It was outdoors, and who was there? Everyone raise your hands who's there. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Matt Baker's team won in spite of Mitch Palusic being on another team with Mike Michaud, the former Manhattan Borough historian. So the competition was fierce, but it was a lot of fun. And I can say we got my daughter, she was there, and she said, Mommy, that was fun. They're cool people. That was a lot of fun. She's 23. Okay, we can impress a 23-year-old, not a jaded 23-year-old. I think we're on the right track. So that was a really fun thing. Hopefully, we'll be doing it again. Maybe have some different quiz masters, get some different questions, and really have that kind of fun public event. Because there were a lot of people there who weren't tour guides and who weren't GANYC members. It was just like that New York City little nerd fest on the waiver tree. And it couldn't have been a more beautiful evening. So that was really a lot of fun. Now, a couple things coming up in November. All right, so in November, from the 5th through the 9th in New Orleans, IATDG, okay, and GANYC loves all these different, tour guides love all these different acronyms, but IATDG, International Association of Tour Directors and Guides. They're doing their annual Tour Connect conference in New Orleans. They still have the discount rate for the hotels, which is the same hotel the conference is going to be in, right downtown in New Orleans, from November 5th through the 9th. I'll be attending. I think Dillinger's going to be there. A bunch of other GANYC members are going to be there. It's a lot of fun. And you can still register, and there you can interview with tour operators. So if you're a newbie tour guide and you want to get more business, more work, that's where you can go. And you can meet, I think they've got like 30 different tour operators from across the United States who interview you, get to know you. It's really, really definitely worth your time. Right after that, ITMI, NTA, and TRIP School. So ITMI is the International Tour Management Institute. NTA, the National Tour Association. And TRIP School, Mitch Bach, who knows Mitch, right? He runs TRIP School. They're doing their conference, and it's in Shreveport. So if you really want to spend like 3 weeks in Louisiana, why not? You go from New Orleans to Shreveport. And their dates are, I think they're the 12th through the 19th. Okay, so those are another conference. There's another conference going on. So one thing also about the IITDG is still no, I just saw my notes here, is October 15th is the deadline to register and get the really good hotel rate. It's like $130 in downtown New Orleans, which is really good. All right, so you might want to check that out. That's really all I have. Just a couple of reminders, and sometimes we see this floating by on the Facebook page, and I always like to tell people, don't be that guy. You know the guy who stands next to you when you're trying to talk and they're speaking loudly, or taking over. I don't know, say Hamilton's tomb. It's like, dude, do the talking before. Let's all have a look. Share the space. Okay, share the space. We're in this little lull now, and then we're going to start getting busy again. We're going to start getting the student groups in. So share the space. Be kind to your fellow guides. Be helpful and be welcoming. It makes everybody's lives a lot easier. So that's really all I have. All I have from me. Now, actually, because we've changed the order a little bit. Jonathan Torres will come up and introduce our next person.
Right. I'm not going to take a lot of time because I want to hand it over to our first speaker, who is Maria Fauconnet, who is the Tour Director Recruiting and Onboarding Manager for EF Explore America. I just want to make this very clear. A lot of people hear EF and they think experience first. This is EF Explore America. Different company doing different things. She's been with EF for 10 years and is fantastic. I've had many good conversations with her. We're very excited that EF Explore America is a brand new industry partner, which is one of the reasons why she's able to come here and speak to us. Just one thing, immediately after Maria's talk, she's going to go kind of over to the side of the room, and if you simply just want to hand her a resume or a business card, you can do that, but she will be sticking around after the meeting for a little while before she has to catch her Amtrak. And so if you want to have a slightly longer conversation with her then, you certainly may. Maria, I hand it over to you.
Yeah, and I'll also be down in Louisiana for 3 weeks. I'll be doing both IATDG and the ITMI conferences, so if you are down there, I will also see you there. But for EF Explore America specifically, some of you have worked with us before, some of you may have never heard of us and are new to tour guiding or tour directing. That's great, we would love to definitely get acquainted. But what EF Explore America does is that we specialize in educational student tours for student groups, middle school and high school, that are traveling from their high schools within the United States around the United States. We have different itineraries that go all over the place, but a lot of our itineraries touch New York City, which is why I'm very excited to be here. It's one of our most popular destinations. Actually, the second most popular destination next to Washington, D.C., which is where I am from. So most of our groups, middle school, high school, average group size is going to be around 42, 45, but they vary in size. They can be private groups, they can be shared groups, but most of those student groups are going to be happening around exactly when you would expect student groups to be traveling, which would be March through June, so around whenever spring break, Easter break time is happening, to around the end of the school year, either right before school is letting out or right after school has let out. So the first 2 weeks of June for us are actually the absolute busiest. That's the highest concentration of travel have some of our tour directors who are certified New York guides, which is great, but we do have new tour directors in the industry who do not have their licenses yet, which is where you guys come in, and where I'm very excited to talk to as many of you as possible, and hopefully have you join us in leading some of our tours. So I think that is all I have to share. Hopefully, if you want, again, I'll be in the back. I have cards, and you can give me your information as well, and we can connect over the next couple of weeks. But any questions?
Any specific questions for Maria? They could be more general.
If you expect that this year is going to be more volume of students coming to New York?
More volume coming to New York. So I think this past season, it was probably as close to pre-pandemic levels of travelers as possible, which is amazing, quite a quick turnaround. And next year and over the next coming years, it's gonna be even busier, which is why I was very excited to come talk to you guys now so we can get ourselves ready and ramped up for all of that projected travel. So it's only gonna get more. Yes?
What are the greatest challenges being a tour guide for middle school and high school students? I'm sure it's a big laundry list, but what are the top 3?
Gosh, I think, and I can speak just for what I've been hearing this year, it's probably the energy levels of the students that you're gonna be traveling. Middle school and high school students, very different energy levels, but also just remembering that they are coming out of a situation where they weren't in a public setting. So a lot of them are still reacclimating to what it's like to be out in public, being social, being with their fellow students. And some of them, for us in particular, a lot of them have never been in an urban setting before. So they don't know how to walk on the sidewalk, how to cross a street, how to ride an escalator. Those are just some of the things I've heard from our guides around New York City. Like, they don't know the basics, so you get to kind of teach them how to do that and give them those safety talks. But I think it's mostly them just learning how to be in public and learning how to human properly.
Are they prepared for that beforehand?
We try to prepare them as much as they will listen to us.
The students, not the guides.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Do students pay for your services?
I'm sorry?
Do students pay for your services?
Do students pay
Pay
for
for your services, yes.
Yes, so all of our travelers, when they are traveling with us, they pay for their tour ahead of time. So then we pay you, the guide, separately. Any other questions?
Do you stay with the students in New York City, or they can go home each night, or how does that work?
So for tour directors, they are over-the-road tour directors, so they are with the group the entire time from start to finish, 24/7, from the moment they pick them up to the moment they drop them back off at the airport. The tour director is with them, but for our tour guides, they are only step-ons. So you are only with the group for a designated amount of time. It can range, depending on the itinerary that they want in the city, it could be 2 to 4 hours. But the main places that most groups are going to be visiting, it's going to be Midtown Manhattan, the financial district, and then there's just a general overview of New York City, which could be a little bit longer, but the main is Midtown Manhattan and the financial district. And those are always chunked out in specific bits of time. So it's usually going to be either in the morning, 10 to 12 is most common, and then in the afternoon, 2 to 4. Just so knowing that a lot of guides, that's also how you have to designate your time and take the work that you're taking on. We try to get in line with that as much as possible.
So thank you very much. Just a quick show of hands. How many guides here work with EF? So usually it's a good company of people, and I can just tell you, my kids went on EF trips and they had great times. And my son's EF backpack finally died. He was distraught. He was absolutely distraught. Yeah. So anyway, so we have to make what? 8th year. Okay. So yeah. So if you have more like specific questions about the groups are like, I would talk to your fellow tour guides more than Maria. She's more to help you hopefully be joining with them. And I could, when my kids they did Boston and DC, and I kept telling them, tip your guides. And they're like, Mommy, we know. So anyway, so thank you very much. Thank you. Great. So yeah, so you can bring Marie your resume if you have it with you, or your business card. But we'll continue with the meeting. So now I'd like to call up Bob Gelber, okay, our intrepid industry relations chair who organized this wonderful meeting, who will be introducing our speakers and our hosts for this evening.
So, welcome to the Elizabeth Foundation for the Arts. This is actually the third time that we have been graciously invited here. We had a fan earlier today of the gallery and what the content of this exhibit is, and we were here several months ago. And at that time, we had been invited to several artists' studio to actually meet the artists and discuss their work with them, and then we came down here. So tonight we're here for a meeting, and I want to thank H.C. Huynh, because she is the Deputy Director of the Elizabeth Foundation for the Arts and has graciously allowed us to be here tonight as her guest. So I don't want to take up any more of her time. She has a presentation with someone else, Alexandra Unthank, and they will work together. So please welcome H.C.
Oh, you can use it, bang on.
I hope everyone's okay if I'm sitting as I'm doing this. Thank you, Bob, so much for that lovely introduction. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Elizabeth Foundation for the Arts. We are very happy to host you, the Guys Association of New York City, tonight for your monthly meeting. We had a great experience giving you a tour earlier today of this exhibition. We've also hosted a group of you a few months ago, I think back in April, for some, as Bob had mentioned, for studio visits. Unfortunately, we can't offer studio visits to everyone tonight because there's 65 of you. That's just impossible to coordinate. But we do have for tonight's presentation 2 artists who will be presenting their works. So you get a little bit of like insight of what we do here in the building. And so for those who have been here before, welcome back. And for the first timers, welcome, and I'll give you a brief introduction of who we are as an organization. So EFA is a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing artists across all disciplines with space, tools, and a cooperative forum for the development of individual practice. We are a catalyst for cultural growth, stimulating new interactions between artists, creative communities, and the public. We were incorporated in 1992 as a small grants-giving organization and had awarded 107 exceptional artists through the course of 9 years. In 1998, we purchased this building here, creating EFA Center. Through the purchase of this building, we transitioned from giving grants to longer-term practical support to artists by developing a community here. So what we do is we occupy from the first floor to the 10th floor. There are 90 artist studios, a full facility print shop right next door, a gallery space, which is the space here, an archive, and a research and education center located on our 5th floor. And our 3 major programs are EFA Project Space, EFA Robert Blackburn Printmaking Workshop, and the EFA Studio Program. So EFA Project Space is this program here in the gallery. It launched in 2008. It's a collaborative cross-disciplinary arts venue founded on the belief that art is directly connected to the individuals who produce it and the communities that arise because of it. By providing an arena for exploring these connections, we empower artists, curators, and other participants to forge new partnerships and encourage the expansion of ideas. The program is based on open calls as well as invitational exhibitions and projects. This is a home for emerging mid-career as well as established curators and artists. It is mainly focused on community engagement and public programming. Project Space partners with various organizations with our programming. For example, this exhibition here is in partnership with Rikers Public Memory Project, the Free Black Women's Library, and Empowerment Avenue. And the image you see up here was the opening of this exhibition, and we had an astounding attendance of about 300 people for that event. Also part of Project Space is the SHIFT residency, which supports arts workers who are also artists by providing a free studio, professional development, and a culminating exhibition at the end of their residency. SHIFT recognizes the contributions of arts workers to the art community, and in turn, we honor their commitments with a supportive environment. Our next program is the a Robert Blackburn printmaking workshop, which is next door. So on your way out, you take a peek and just see the facility. It launched in 2005. It is a fully equipped professional cooperative print workshop. It is one of the oldest, longest running community print shop here in New York City. We are the only ones in Manhattan that does stone lithography. And the whole ethos of the program next door is about providing affordable workshops and access. Our prices have not changed since the 90s, and so it's really important to us to make printmaking as accessible to all artists. And it's so happy artists to take our workshops as well. And we do provide scholarships for the classes. And then part of this program, there is the Studio Immersion Project Fellowship, also known as SIP, and this is a intensive studio fellowship from February to May designed to immerse artists in the world of printmaking. And then another notable program, project of this program is the EFA Blackburn Legacy Fellowship, which is reserved for artists who worked with Robert Blackburn in his original print shop. As new generations of artists begin to utilize print, we make sure to continue his legacy by keeping that space affordable, accessible, and welcoming, and we bring these older artists to the print shop to have cross exchanges with this newer generation. And then next, I'm going to introduce my colleague, Alexandra Unthank, who is the program director of the studio program. She can give you an introduction to this program and then the artists who are part of this program.
Hi, I'm Alex Unthank. I'm really happy to welcome you all here today. Thanks for spending this time with us. So I'm the director of the Studios program at EFA, and Studios program main goal is to support artists by providing affordable studio space and support artists' careers by infusing an environment of sharing and of collaboration and sharing of resources and community amongst our artists. Our main goal is we accept about 5 to 9 members per year into our program, and I think HC mentioned, but we have 90 studios. About 75% of those studios are designated for our member artists. So we provide subsidized studios based on income for our members, which enables artists to have more sustainable practice in New York. I mean, I think everyone here has probably experienced rising costs of living in New York, and so when you're an artist and you have your apartment and also your works apartment theory to contend with, having a little bit of a break on that can be a really impactful way for us to work with artists. But we're not just studios, we also provide robust programming in addition to. So we really take pride in promoting the artists who we support here and assisting in career development and also just trying to foster organic engagements between them. So we have kind of our regular programming, which is mainly our VPP program, which is very popular. We organize studio visits with industry professionals. We invite about 2 of those people per month to come and do studio visits with the artists in the program, and a lot of those encounters can lead to other opportunities such as shows or representation with galleries, etc. And then we have our main public event, which we're very excited about, starting next week, which is our Open Studios. Oh, am I supposed to? Oh, sorry, what do I press? join us. It's a really great opportunity to get a sense of who we are, what we're about, and it's a rare opportunity to be with artists in their studio and really get insights into their practice. It's free, it's open to the public, so share it with anyone you think might be interested in coming. This is our main event of the year. And then I should mention that we have bars, it's also a party, and then on Saturday, there's an after party. So Thursday and Friday, it's from 6 to 9, and on Saturday, it's from 2 to 6, and the after party is from 6 on. And on Saturday, we'll be offering coffee, pastries during the day. On Friday and Thursday, we'll have an open bar on the 10th floor and the 4th floor. And you can also follow us on Instagram to see a little bit about each of the artists. We're kind of highlighting some artists from every floor every day. So if you want to get a taste of what it might be like, I highly suggest you check us out there. Our Instagram is on the program, and there's a little bit of information on each of our programs there. Let's see what else is on the next slide. Oh, that's, okay, I'm not done yet, but that's, that's the next one. I will be introducing our artists very soon. And then just the last bit to share with you, in addition to our member artists whose careers we support, we do have opportunities for international artists to come and do residencies with us, and we partner with other organizations abroad and locally to support other communities of artists outside of just the New York area. We're really unique in that we're a multi-generational organization. We don't focus on just emerging or mid-career or established artists. We're really a very special blend. So I think without further ado, you are in for a real treat, because we have two artists who are gonna do brief presentations with you. I saw a hand.
Real quick, during the open house, will it be for sale or is it just for sale?
We don't sell artwork as an organization, so it's an individual question. Some artists might sell work out of their studios, so it's always fun to ask, I think.
Is this part of Open House New York too?
This is not part of Open House New York,
Yeah.
but it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're open to partnering with Open House New York.
So you mentioned that you don't sell the works of art here, but in HC was mentioned before that you have visitors come to the studio, so those include gallery owners and so they can meet artists. And
Yeah, so if an art sale happens here, EFA doesn't, we're not involved, we don't take a cut. So it just depends on the artists and the different stages. Some people, if they have a gallery, they're not allowed to sell work individually because then there'd be a set price through the gallery. So I always just direct people to talk to the artists directly, and then they get to. But I will say, we are having a benefit coming up on the 9th of November where we will have works for sale in 3 tiers. So I'm sure if you want more information on that, you can get that information from HC.
Are you funded by the city of New York?
Are we funded by the city of New
You're
York?
asking,
That's a good question for HC.
sorry.
We get multiple funding too. Some of it's grants, some of. Any other questions?
You said that they pay rent, the artists pay rent based upon their
So
income.
artists pay artist fees based on their income. So they pay studio fees, and then members also pay dues. So there is a price associated with being here, but we are a nonprofit. So we basically support the program. So without further ado, I have 2 of our artists to come and talk a little bit about what they do. First, I'd like to introduce Mahmoud.
Hello, and before you leave, oh, I just moved to the next.
I've been pressing this button.
Okay, perfect.
And
Hello.
I'm gonna have cards in the back if anyone wants to contact me directly.
My name is Mahmoud Hamadani, and I've been an artist in residence here for over 16 years. So this place has been around for a quarter century, and Alex and HC gave you an introduction of the place. I want to add something as how valuable it is for artists such as myself to get a space, affordable space in the middle of Manhattan. But the most important thing is that there's a community of over 60 artists. And the quality of art, if you next week there is going to be open studios and you'll see for yourself. And for this, I'm going to recuse myself. I'm not talking about my own art, but the quality of art is as good as it gets in New York City. So you can go to Chelsea, to museums. The artists are really good. Every 2 years, we go through a vetting process. They look at us, they want us to be active artists. They don't want us to use this place as a storage. So they come, the artists who work here, the over 60 artists, they're all very serious, very dedicated, and the age range is from 20s to 80s, or 90s. We have had, and also from all different cultures, nationalities, backgrounds. It's a wonderful place to be. I'm going to talk about my work, but this is not my work, of course. I'm going to show you a series of images. By the way, if you get bored, feel free to look at your phone, stare at the ceiling, or yawn, if you will. I won't get offended. I'll get the message. I'll cut it short. This work that you see here is not mine. It's about 4,000 years old. We'll move on to the second. Oh, wow, look at this. This is again, and this is that the work that you see, that jar is 6,000 years old. The reason that I'm showing this, I'll go through this fast. Look at this, the sense of humor that this artist has. This 4,000-year-old, or this one, but this was dug around my town, by the way. About 4,000 years old. How abstract, how beautiful. Rimbaud, the French philosopher, says that one has to be absolutely modern. It's a requirement for the artist to be modern. Look at this, they're all modern art. Modernity is an ancient idea. What that means to be modern means to bring something of yourself into the work. Okay? As William Faulkner says, he says, to make something with the material of human spirit that did not exist before. What does that mean? It doesn't mean to go and check all the work of humanity and then make something different. No. If you do something authentic, if there is something that you want to say, you want to make a statement, and you do that without any regard as to what the others think or whether it will sell, it will be authentic, it will be original. It might not, it might not be significant, but it is very important, as Gandhi said. Whatever you do might not be significant, but it is important that you do it. That's what we are doing. We are going to go, I'll show you a few more of these because I just can't resist the beauty. Also, to tell you that we haven't started anything. This has been going on for millennia, this act of working. Look at this place. This is about 800 years old. The asymmetry of it. It is so beautiful and abstract and modern. We'll go through again. That bracelet is about 3,500 years old from present-day Afghanistan. If that was put in MoMA, you would say, wow, who's the artist? What? Yes. So, and this is the last one. I'm going to go to my work now. Okay? These are works on paper. This is from the series Requiem. What is Requiem? Requiem is a piece of music that is that reconciles you with the loss. And somehow these, the words that I'll show here, this is again another one of, I'll go through these fast. Somehow they evoke that feeling of requiem. But I do not believe in the dictatorship of interpretation. Whatever you read into this is valid. In fact, sometimes I find others have much deeper understanding and appreciation of my work than I do myself. And I enjoy that. This is a little mischievous work. The thing about making work of art is to be playful. It's very important. For example, when I was hanging these, I realized that if you line up these instead of the frames, it will still work. When you sit in a room and somehow the frame is not hung well, it gets on your nerves, you know. You feel like getting up and fix it. With this, you don't get that. It works. Why does it work? Because of that line. So I said, why not? Let's do it that way. This is another work from the series that kind of shows the alphabet of what I do. The thing about abstraction, by the way, we all live with abstract. Music is abstract. And for some reason, nobody ever has a problem with understanding music, because it's pure feeling. When it comes to abstract art, visual art, a lot of people ask me, what is the meaning? It's like asking, what's the meaning of music? It's feeling. It's supposed to evoke a feeling. That's all. I don't really read any meanings into this. This is another series. I create these with blowing ink on paper. There is an unromantic story behind it. While I was doing the previous one, because it involved constant movement of hand, I kind of got carried away and I lost the ability in my hand for 6 months. I couldn't even open a door. During that time, I started blowing ink on paper, and that's how this is a result of ink blown on paper. I'll recite you a poem by Gu Chang, Chinese poet. It goes like this. Now on my heart's page there is no grit to guide my hand, no character to trace. Only the moisture, the ink blue dew that has dripped from the leaves. To spread it, I can't use a pen. I can't use a writing brush. I can only use my life's gentlest breath to make a single line of marks worth puzzling over. So the name Traces for this comes from that poem. And it's incredible that two artists from two different parts of the world in two different times have said the exact same thing in two different mediums. That's one of those fun parts of life, which makes it worth being a starving artist. Yes. Okay, these are books again from the ink blown on paper from the same series, Traces. And this is from the series Odes. Odes is, as you can see, is the simplest of my work. It's just repetition of a straight line. I'll show you one more repetition of a straight line. This is a triptych. And this one, I couldn't draw straight with this one, but again, this is a repetition of lines. It's the most unforgiving because a tiny dot will destroy this. So it is really, you have to be really exact. And it's what is it to me? It's like exploration of the dynamics of light and shadow, which is not much to say for an artist. It's like a chef explaining his food as an exploration of the dynamics of salt and pepper. So it's so we move from odes to endless roads. These are large scale. This is a 60 by 72. And I'll show you, this is 51 by 92. one more, another 44 by 60, and one more. Oh, this is a rendering. It's a proposal for painting on the largest wall at MoMA. When you go to MoMA, you see there is a wall. It has never been painted on. There has never been a work of art on that. And I believe they're reserving it for me. Anyway, I'm pursuing this. Hopefully it will happen. And I think this makes perfect sense for me. The name of this series is Endless Roads. The name comes again from another poet, because I'm the last child in search of the origins of my belatedness, forever wandering alleys of desire and endless roads of wonder. I think the story of life. Moving on, if you thought that I don't work with color, this is from the series Haiku. These are 2 layers, and the layers are separated by a quarter inch. These are 48 by 48 each, and this is 24 by 24. Haiku has a geometric shape in poetry. I'm sure you're familiar with the form of haiku, and for some reason these paintings evoked haiku for me. This is from the series Metaphors. Now these are smaller. These are 18 by 24, and the relationship between this and Endless Roads is that this is like a haiku. The other one is like long poem. So these are very quick. And metaphor. What is metaphor? Metaphor is an abstraction that we use in order to explain something concrete. For example, the poet Borges talks about dawn. He says, when light like a climbing vine begins to implicate the shadowed walls. Thank you. I don't see anybody looking at their phones. When light like a climbing vine begins to implicate the shadowed walls. That's a metaphor. Just explaining what dawn. So these abstract works are also like metaphor. You read whatever you read into them. We use metaphors in order to explain something concrete. We use something abstract to explain the concrete. The same thing, these are visual metaphors. This is a diptych from the same series. I'm showing these, by the way. I have a solo show of these. I have these are new. These are all 2023, and I'm showing these in Dubai in a solo show in January. You're all invited. This is again another from the series Metaphor. We'll go. I'm going to show you again. If just this is work that I did in a pond of water. So about 6 inches below the water, I built a structure, and I made these things. It's made with chicken wire, turkey wire, and insect wire. Really that simple. This is the baby is for scale, by the way. And this was called Ode to New York. I built this after September 11, and it was my homage to New York City. And this is another version of that. This was done at the Symphony Space in New York. That's it. Thank you so much Next week, there's over 60 studios, great art. Please come for a visit. And bring visitors, bring people. Thank you.
Next up, we have Cheryl Molnar and another amazing DFA artist.
it's been great. Like this is my second home. I'm pretty much here, if not more than my apartment, just as much. And I love being here. But I'm from New York originally. You might be able to tell from my accent, but I'm from Long Island originally. My husband's from Staten Island, so I like to say we're from the islands, Long and Staten. But and then I've been in Greenpoint in Brooklyn for about 23 years. But my grandparents, who are from Long Island, had moved out to Los Angeles like about 60 years ago. So I grew up going back and forth between New York and LA to visit them. And I always loved, I love New York, like I love the energy, and I love working here in Midtown. Like it energizes me to work. I love to take the ferry in. I get off the ferry, walk across town, and like get energized as soon as I put my bag down. I love being here and that energy. But my work is mostly inspired by these vast landscapes, you know, the hills and the mountains and the vistas that you see more on the West Coast than in New York. And it's always been intriguing. But I also love the modern art from that you see around LA as well. Like I've always loved like Philip Johnson, and this piece in particular was reflective of the Stahl House, like one of the case study houses. But I use architecture as a metaphor for, you know, man versus nature, how man alters nature in some sort of way, but also the geometric shapes themselves. I love them for their shapes and their structural qualities to it, and how that integrates with natural landscapes. So this is the couple slides from here are actually from a show that I had this summer at C24 Gallery in Chelsea, where I'm represented. And I actually met the curator for the gallery here. During one of the organized studio visits, we have a visiting professionals program, so every few weeks. As artists, member artists here, you could sign up and meet with you know, professional curators and you know, various arts professionals. So I had signed up, and I met the curator for C24, and now I've been represented by them for over 3 years. So this is one of the pieces that I had in a two-person show this summer, and it's all cut paper collage on wood panel, and it's made up of photos that I've taken out in LA, drawings that I've made based off the architectural references, and I kind of combine them into a new scene that represents all the things that I've seen, just not necessarily all together. This is a detail of that, so you can see all the photographs and painted cut paper. Like I pretty much make my own colored paper by painting it and then cut it up onto the wood panel. Something like this. This one I worked, you know, on for about a year, but you know, I was working on other things and life and stuff, so like all of it, every day for a year. There's other, but it took me about a year to work on this one. You can see even closer some of the hand cut details in it. These are some of the more mid-sized pieces that were in the show, yeah, they're done in a very similar process. I also started to introduce, like, around COVID, during COVID, we were actually away from the studios, because a lot of us had, you know, moved out of town for a few months, the buildings closed, you know, it was a hard time. So when I cut up my photos, during that time I started to use Photoshop more prominently. So these collages, I started with a collage underpainting that I did digitally, because I was sitting on the couch at home, like I think like so many of us were. So I started to digitally stitch together these photos, and then I worked with Jugal to get like a digital underpainting made, and then collage on top of it. So there's still that level of handmadeness to it, like still a lot of this is some of the detail to it. So it just added another layer. So having this digital, I call them like the digital underpaintings with the collage work on top of it, just added another dimension and another layer to the work. And I found like this process started to work for me. Especially, I also have a 6-year-old daughter, and I can't stay here all night like I used to. So now it's something that I could do some of this work at home, like at night after she goes to bed. labor intensive pieces. Oh, that was actually my grandmother's house right there, in there, but it doesn't appear like this with these other houses around, or a tree in the middle of the road, but that's how I envision it. This one's called Block, and this is called Boulevard. So this, I mix references a lot between Long Island and LA because they are similar in the way that suburbia was developed, or the way that, you know, the suburb, like people fled from town to the city, or from the cities to go to the suburbs. And a lot of those like cul-de-sac cultures are also relevant in LA, in the way that the landscape was altered to make way for these suburban, you know, suburban streets and cul-de-sacs. So this is actually, you know, it doesn't appear exactly like this in LA, but this is one of the streets by my grandmother's house all the way to the mall. But I, you know, mixed the scene up. But it reminds me, I actually teach at the Delphi University, Nassau Boulevard, if anybody knows, but it's like, has that big, vast suburban boulevard feeling to it. This is another one. This is one of the only references. So I did not go, I haven't been, I actually think I went to Greece once when I was 16, but this isn't from that, that picture. I drew from a reference that I found on the internet and combined it with painted paper. But I like this one's called Remnant, but I wanted to have that history since I do talk about my Los Angeles family connections and Long Island family connections, and like the work is rooted in, you know, some of those, that family dynamic and the family structures that happen. So I wanted to have something that had like a relic type of feeling. So again, like I collaged together, like I actually drew an illustrator the structure, and it looked too clean, so then I actually cut up the image and collaged, you know, with cut paper and put some of the photograph into it to make this landscape. I also like to abstract shapes a lot too, so that it's not like you know, completely representational. I call them, they're reductive in a way. So it's I reduce the shapes that I see of the trees, and I like to play with the shapes and the forms as well. But it's still pretty representational as to what the references are. This one's probably one of the more this was one of the last ones. This one was made up of pretty much the scraps on the floor, like before like literally they were knocking on my door to come take the work away, and I was like still picking up pieces off the floor and gluing them to the panel. So this was one of the last minute ones that I sent it over, like I told the jury, like if you want to put it in, you can put it in. But it's literally, I started with the drawing, so I knew the drawing was something I wanted to work with, but the rest of it I hadn't really planned out yet until I started picking stuff up off the floor. And this is the detail of the collage work. And talk about community here. It's great to have a community. One of the artists from down the hall for me, she was moving and cleaning her studio. She had a whole box of, I think, 20 of these circular wood panels, and she's like, oh, do you want them? I'm like, yeah, I'll take them. Like, what am I gonna do? Yeah, I'll figure out something to do with these circular wood panels. So I started to, you know, just because I had them, I started to incorporate them. These are 18 inches circles, so they're not that big, but they're about this big. So they're just fun, you know, fun things to play around with. This one's called Canopy. I like how the trees kind of give way to like make it feel like a canopy. And I again abstract, you know, pull out elements and abstract them. This one was called The Verge, I think, because like the other thing I like about LA, it's very precarious, and I think the same way that our like family relationships are and dynamics are, they're very precarious. So there's in LA, there's lots of structures that look like they're going to fall, and I do use that a lot, also as a metaphor for that. Yeah, and I like to, you know, put shapes in. Sometimes the pieces lean more towards abstraction, just because I feel like it. Like this, like it's like not every piece is going to have some these more geometric shapes, but some are depending on what I feel like the piece needs. I've also done some public art commissions. So this was through public art. I think a public art for public schools. I think everybody was involved. The Percent for Art program, the New York Department of Cultural Affairs. I guess you New Yorkers, you must know that when there's a public building being built, I think it's whatever 1% of the budget is supposed to be earmarked for public art. So I got awarded a commission for a public art project in Queens, and it was in Corona, so it overlooked the World's Fair site. And when I went to go do a site visit, I could see the remnants of it, and the school was, I think, pre-K through 5th grade, so there was a lot of young kids, and I figured they didn't really know the history from, the 60s about, like, the World's Fair. So part of the engagement, too, is to engage the community and the students about the work. So I did a series, I think, of 14 workshops with them in the schools. I think I have some slides of that later, but I wanted something that would reflect, give them a little bit of the history of the World's Fair site, give them something to look at, because this is in the lobby, and they'd be seeing it from, like, potentially from kindergarten all the way to 5th grade, so they could, something different to see at different times, different people see different things. So this is handmade ceramic tile. So I worked with a vendor, the same one actually that did LaGuardia, the new one in one of the murals in LaGuardia Airport. But I drew the whole thing out. Let me see, yeah. So I drew the whole thing out in Illustrator, like I use Illustrator, and then the problem with that was, like, when you blow it up, it's too jaggedy. So then I actually ended up drawing all the foliage in the front by hand, scanning it back in, putting it back in the computer to get, like, this big blueprint to give to the tile vendor. This is one of the models. You can see what I presented to the the panel. And yeah, this is, so the vendor cutting up. So he basically just took my drawing, cut it up, and this is, all these numbers are glazes. So it took me a month to just write the glaze numbers of the glazes. Yeah, and then he hand cut all the pieces this took about this was a long project that took about 2 years to do. And then we only had like a week to assemble it on site. And then, yeah, so this is the final project. So some more details in it. That's the Unisphere. This was the New York State Pavilion. The House of the Future, like the Disney House of the Future, is like in the back there, repeated, mixed in with like the suburbs. This is vaguely the Port Authority building, like vaguely. The tram I put in, the tram was one of the committees, like oh, we talked about it, like that was an add-in, but the tram that went through in some detail. So like I drew all this, and then the tile maker literally just traced my drawing on top of the clay to get some of those details. And then here's some of the kids' ideas. So I had them do their own collages based on what they think the future is going to be. So that was part of the workshop, and it was really cool to see what they thought the future was going to be, since that was a big theme of the World's Fair. And then because I had gotten that one, the woman who had run the Percent for Art program had actually moved to LA, like while I was working on this, she moved to LA to be head of the Municipal Arts Council in LA. So she kept me in mind because my work does go, it's fitting for LA. So this is a sketch. I got awarded a commission for another mural at the hospital in Lancaster, California, and it was mostly like a crisis. I think it was. I went to visit it. I think or crisis. I have a story about it after. But so this tile tile work was actually, so it's a similar process in the same way that I drew it out in Illustrator, drew it out at actual size. I did this all during COVID in my bedroom. I not the tile work, like I was in it, like making the tile work, but I did all the printing out, all the drawings at actual size, putting together paint swatches. And then the tile work was actually done by Steve Miyamoto, who did a lot of the MTA projects as well. So it actually, they were out of budget for me, but because I got the project in April 2020, they had lost some work, so they're like, oh, this is great, we'll actually take it, because I had gotten the award and they had lost it, so it actually worked out for all of us. But you can see the intricate tile work there. My original design didn't have heads on the birds, but since it was like a committee of committee of people, because my birds were a little bit more abstracted with no heads, they're like that was one of the committee decisions. I was like, fine. I remember there was a party here at EFA, and I was like upstairs in my studio. I'm like, I have to put heads on these birds, and then I'll be right down. I'm like, oh man, like I didn't want to do it, but I'm like, fine, I'll put the heads on the birds, and then go have a drink. So it was fun. Here's a couple more detailed shots of this, but like the school project, the community engagement was hard for me to do one because this actually went up pretty quick. Like this, from start to finish, it went up in August. So I got awarded the project in April, and it was installed and done by August, which is crazy speed. So I didn't have the opportunity to go to LA. My daughter was a baby. I couldn't go fly during COVID to go and stay with my 90-year-old, like do that. So I didn't go to LA. So for the community engagement, and I did coloring books based on my drawings. So when people go to the hospital and they're waiting in the lobby, like somebody hands them a coloring book if they seem like they want it. So I was here, like sitting upstairs at my desk, and I got an Instagram message from this girl who was like in her, looked like late teens, early 20s, and she's like, I just want to let you know, your artwork helped save my life. She's like, I was going through a really rough time, and I was sitting in the lobby, I know, like tearing up. And I was sitting in the lobby, and she's like, I was looking at your artwork, and like the woman at the counter noticed I was looking at it, so she handed me a coloring book, and she's like, I started working on it while I was going through this crisis, and then I got home and I was like, started to make my own art, and like and she's like, I've been making my own art since, and it's really been helping me get through this really rough time. And I was like, oh my god, that's like a really great thing to hear, like as an artist, to be like, oh wow, that's like it makes it worth it. So of course I messaged the director, from the Municipal Arts Council, like this is makes it worth it. And I remember I came home from the studio and had dinner with my husband. I'm like, how's your day? How's your day? And I'm like, oh, I got this. He's like, I have nothing. My day was like, I need an Excel spreadsheet. So it's really great to see how art can really inspire people like that. But yeah, that's my work. So I'm almost finished.
Mahmoud, if you'd like to stand up, if anyone would like to ask the artist question, I just want to say thank you so much. Oh my gosh, it's just wonderful to see that. Any questions here?
So do you draw this first and then have your permission other people, or other people just will do it for you?
Yeah. So I hire the people, the vendors, to do the work. So I draw it. So the initial mock-up is just like a little sketch, like a little thing, and like that I present it, and then you have to draw it at actual size. And then I draw it at actual size, and then hand that off to a vendor.
And what do you do with all these sketches that you've drawn over the years? Do you sell them, or what?
The sketches, well, the sketches I don't really show, but it's mostly the final pieces that I show.
But some things you do sell, right?
The artwork, yeah, all the art is for sure. Yeah, all those paintings and all those circles were sold in the circular ones were sold at the gallery. Some are still for sale. I do
so what are we going to be seeing on the 3 days? What
So, well, in my studio, I have some of my collage pieces like hanging up in my studio, and then you can see some of the process and the actual materials, because my desk is a mess, and like you get to see materials, and then all the other artists and stuff. You get to see them in their, it's like, almost like seeing habitats. I kind of feel like a little bit like you're going to see, next we're going to the, walking, there's the gorillas, and like, here's the collage artist, here's this one, so it's
So they're gonna go into different media.
Yeah, everyone has different, that's the great thing about this program. Everyone's work is so different. Like, there's nobody who's like, and we all appreciate each other's work because we're doing great things and can appreciate the work that we're all doing, but everyone's doing something different.
John?
Yeah, that wonderful mural about the 1964 World's Fair, I'm sorry, maybe I didn't catch it. Is that mural visible to the public?
So it is technically, like it's in the lobby of the school. So you could go there, like they said, like it's supposed to be public, like and like all the funding is for public spaces. So it's in the lobby of the building. They're supposed to let you in to go see it. It's like literally right when you walk in the door.
But it is a public school.
Yeah, it's a public school, PS 19Q.
So, should I know who Elizabeth is?
That's a question for.
So Elizabeth is the mother of our founder, James Stevenson, and so when she had passed away, she had put in her will that she wanted part of the money coming from her to be put towards non-profit. So Jane, our founder, created the Elizabeth Foundation with ours to honor her mother.
And actually, I have a question for about your works on paper. Those are all drawn freehand?
Some of them are blown, that is with breath or air. Some, of course, some are drawn. I use a French curve or a ruler, but the rest is freehand. Yes.
And how big? I mean, it seems like some of the papers are
The
enormous.
biggest that I have, yes,
pieces
it's
of paper.
like 60 by 75 feet. Some of them are as large as that and as small as 10 by 10.
And so do you have a special place that you purchase your paper? Do you have people making paper? for
Yes,
you?
I'm always, yes. There was a place called New York Central, which was like a mecca for paper, and they closed, unfortunately. So ever since, we have to look on in the internet and look for different, but that was the place where we used to go.
And then do you use a special ink as well? So it doesn't,
Yes,
because
I
I
use
noticed how it doesn't.
ink. Ink is very important. It's very dense, and how it is absorbed by the paper. This all matters. Yes.
Thank you. All
Now,
right. well-
now you can go and do it yourself. All you need is pen, paper, and patience.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you both so very much. Yeah, and thank you both for hosting us here. Okay, yes, thank you, Alexandra. And I think you're going to be seeing GANYC members at the open house. One question, so, we're tour guides and we'll have guests, and can we say to guests who are saying, I want a special kind of, what could you have about contemporary art? We know about different art galleries and things like that. Can we bring guests here to see this space? And this is a public space. They can just come
Yes,
in.
you can just contact us and we can coordinate your tours here.
Can you mention the date of the gala again?
So our fundraising event is called the EFA Greenhouse Benefit Disco. It is tropical disco themed, and it is on November 9th. And there will be artworks for sale at that time at tiers of $250, $500, and $750. And they're all works by artists in our community.
Great, well, thank you very much. So next, we're going to be doing the GANYC board nominations. Patrick Casey will be helping me with this. You all, when you got your agenda, we also had a handy handout Okay, about the election cycle and about how it's going to run, the different roles on the board. Okay, this is for the board. And the GANYC board is a 2-year term. Okay, it's a 2-year term. So I'm just. Shall I? Should you? Do you want to read the?
Oh, all right. Well, right now, what we're going to do tonight's festivities. I see Dan, how are you? Why didn't you tell me you were coming? I've known this guy for 1,000 years, and it's great to see you here. All right. Dan McHenry, everybody. Welcome. Give him a GANYC welcome. Come on. Guys gotta think I mean something in this organization. Please. Okay, what's happening tonight? We'll be taking nominations for our board. In the process of nominating, you can nominate yourself. If you nominate yourself, that's fine. Someone else has to nominate, has to second your nomination, and then there's the acceptance. So right here tonight, there's a brief 3-step process: a nomination, a second of nomination, and an acceptance of the nomination. Ideally, we're going to have all 9 slots on the board filled. The November meeting, each nominee will have the opportunity, they are invited, to address the assembled GANYC membership. And the GANYC membership will have the opportunity to question the candidates for office. By the way, if not every slot is filled tonight, the nominating process continues through the month of October. If you wish to nominate or be nominated, you can do so through email to the board at ganyc.org. And there is an election committee, we'll be setting that up. Yes, Jonathan?
So if every slot is filled tonight, can people still be nominated?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. The more the merrier. People can drop out, people can change their minds. So,
also, one more thing. If you're nominated tonight and you're not sure, you still have to decide, you still have time to decide until
October 31st, Halloween, 6 p.m. October 31st is the drop dead. If you have been nominated but have not accepted your nomination's invalid. So you've got to get it in by October 31st, 24 hours prior to the November GANYC membership meeting. And the election, of course, will take place by e-ballot through the month of November, with the winner announced at the December meeting. Okay? Any questions? Yes?
I didn't get the handout, but I recall that you could run for a couple of offices.
Yes, you can run for multiple offices, but you will serve only in one.
You get to pick which one.
Yeah, and yes, and going into it, you should know where you want to be.
Yeah.
But you can run for multiple offices, but you will serve on one. Any other questions? All right, it was decided at our previous board meeting that we will start with the office of the president. You're standing right there. Do you want to give him a thumbnail?
it's a lot of coordinating. It's a lot of listening, soothing the occasional ruffled feathers. Okay. And helping to run the meetings. So we're going to be doing these meetings all the time, and also at the board meetings. And so just making sure people are called on in order, giving people time to speak, getting the occasional venti email from somebody or another, and then expressing that to the board. And then you become the public face of GANYC. So somebody says, oh, we need, to hear from GANYC, we need a GANYC representative, I'll be trotted out to various places. So, and
You
it's
do fun stuff too.
You do fun stuff, yes, you get to go to.
Gathering Media wants to give us an award. Our president is going to show up and accept it for us.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's fun getting awards and you stand there.
Yeah, the job of the presidency is primarily facilitator and public face of the organization. And one thing I didn't mention before is we have a 9-member board. Why do we have 9 members? So that it does not become a full-time job for any one person. If we can fill these 9 slots, the work is spread out evenly. It's not that other job that some people are afraid of. So pitch in, many hands make light work. Jeremy.
Mr. Casey, can you just reiterate to members what the time commitments are for serving on the board?
Yes, there is, and I will, before I scare you with that requirement, please remember that while we do have requirements for your service on the board, the number of meetings you'll attend, it's with the realization that we're all working. We know this. And if you are a vice president and you've got a gig that's going to take you out and you're going to miss that month's board meeting and that month's membership meeting, you're not going to get fired. Don't worry about it. We know how this works. And again, there are 9 members. So slack can easily be picked up. And the board requirements are attendance at 8 membership meetings, and this is a membership meeting, 8 out of 12, and 10 board meetings out of the 12. So 8 out of 12 membership, 10 out of 12 board. We understand life happens. Yes?
So does the board meet virtually on Zoom or in person?
Board meets in person once a month.
But we have had members who, if they, due to time constraints, they've had to hop on and Zoom, but we like to have meetings in person. We have found that they're much more productive and they just run in a much smoother way and you get so much more done. And so the board meetings take place at our WeWork office, which is downtown, 115 Broadway, and the Trinity buildings are right near Coffee Park, and we're down there, we're at that's where our WeWork office is, and that's where we meet. And so the board meeting is the third Monday of each month, and the membership meeting is always the first Wednesday.
Usually the first Wednesday.
Yeah.
I think we should amend that slightly though, because schedule is to be.
It's usually the first Wednesday, and usually for the membership meeting, and usually the third Monday. Calendars, holidays, yes. It's all worked out in advance. In fact, that's one of the first items of business that the new board will establish. It's meeting calendar.
Yeah, the first, like our January meeting, we go through, we get all the dates right there. Michael?
Yeah, just to clarify, so it's a 2-year term.
2-year term.
So when you're talking about the minimum intensities, that's per year.
That's what I said, 8 out of 12, it's a year, and 10 out of 12, that's a year. And it is a 2-year commitment, we do this every 2 years.
Yeah, and we have a little a prep meeting that we do on Monday nights before the Wednesday meeting. And that's by Zoom, and that's whoever's ready for the board, and that helps us do the member interviews. But that little prep meeting is typically 20 minutes, not even, and it's just to make sure we're all on the same page. Like, we know who's doing the introductions, we know who's doing this, we know who's doing that. That's a very short little meeting. That's not mandatory, but the president and the secretaries attend that meeting.
Right, and yes, that's primarily for the president who will run the meeting and the secretaries who will establish the agenda.
Yeah, so then we're setting the agenda.
And again, that's voluntary. If you can't, great. If you can't, we take notes. We cover each other. Any more questions? All right, we're entertaining nominations for the office of President of GANYC. Tony.
I would like to nominate Jeremy Wilcox, President.
We have a nomination for Jeremy Wilcox. Is there a second?
Second.
I second.
We have a second. Does Mr. Wilcox accept the nomination?
I do.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Nobody hasn't been elected yet.
Are there any other nominations for the office of presidency?
And president is just one position, the others have multiple positions. If anybody else wants to. All right, so for now we have Jeremy as our
All right,
nominee.
again, nominations can be submitted by email throughout the month, board@ganyc.org. Our next office, there are 2 of them, vice presidents.
One of them's right here, actually. If you want to say anything about, the role of the vice
Basically,
president.
if she's not here, he steps in.
Yes, yeah, we have 2 vice presidents, okay?
Yeah,
So-
in the event the term cannot be fulfilled, the vice president can step in. If an event can't be covered, the vice president will step in. All of the board positions do operate with involvement with all of the committees, again, so it doesn't overburden anybody by vice presidents and members at large especially. Attendance, of course, at these meetings, attendance at board meetings. So anything that you would add, Jonathan? All right, we'll entertain nominations for the 2 vice presidents.
I nominate Jonathan Tour to serve another term as vice president.
I second.
We have a nomination and a second. Does Jonathan Tour accept?
Jonathan Turr will not be standing for the board next year.
Jonathan Tour declines. Mr. Graham?
Okay, I nominate Mike Morgan.
Mike Morgenthau, is Mike, do we have a second for Mike Morgenthau?
Second.
We have seconds. Is Mike Morgenthau present?
No.
All right, as secretary, I will reach out to Michael Morgenthau and keep an eye on your email. We'll let you know if he's accepting or declining.
Dave.
Dave?
For vice president, I should like to nominate Beth Goff.
We have a nomination. Do we have a second? We have a second. Does Beth Goff accept the nomination?
Yes.
Beth Goff accepts the nomination. Do we have a nomination?
I would like to nominate Patrick Casey for vice president.
Patrick Casey respectfully declines. Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
Cutting it off right now. No, seriously, I'm not running. A few people have asked me about running. Everybody, new blood, always. Turn it over. I don't own this position. I don't want to own this position. Somebody else has to step in and do it better than I do. Okay? Next, any other nominations for vice president?
I nominate Ann McDermott, vice president.
Ann McDermott, do we have a second? Jeremy Wilcox seconds. Ann McDermott. Ann McDermott declines. Any other nominations? Tony?
I would like to nominate Kevin Lawrence.
Do we have a second to Kevin Lawrence? We have a second. Is Kevin Lawrence present? No. I will reach out to Kevin Lawrence. Any other nominations for vice president? Tony?
Kit Garrett.
Do we have a second? We have second. And Kit, we know, is traveling. We'll reach out to Kit. Any more nominations for vice president? Closing vice president nominations.
And
Thank
don't
you.
forget, you can also email them.
Oh, yes, and of course, throughout the month of October. Treasurer. Okay.
Jeremy, you want to say something about treasurer?
I nominate Sarah Lyons for treasurer again.
Second.
Does Sarah Lyons accept?
Enthusiastically.
Are there any other nominations? Any additional nominations for treasurer? Again, nominations can be emailed into board@ganyc.org through the month of October. All right, next up, secretaries. All right, we got 2 of those. Recording secretary, I think a lot of you have seen what I do, which is primarily making sure the minutes are taken at both board and membership meetings. Membership meeting minutes are posted shortly after that meeting. Development of the agenda. Again, the 2 secretaries, one is recording, one is corresponding. They can interchange depending on the strong suits and availability and schedule of the secretaries. We can play off of each other. The corresponding often gets involved with more outgoing correspondence, working very closely with the president's office on that. John Selmack, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Can you say who the other one is now, please?
There are 2, corresponding and recording.
But who are they?
Oh, I'm the recording and John is the corresponding. Anything to add, John?
I mean, you gotta send regular emails, you gotta remember to send them, things like that.
You mean chasing after committee chairs and their reports, that stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, I chase those. I mean, I know you do a bit of that too, actually. So, you gotta be able to write emails and, you gotta be able to work with the Wild Apricot email system, which, the templates that we use for those.
That's the good news.
Yeah.
You're frightened of email. So much of the system has been automated. We have dedicated software
Yeah.
to service membership in organizations such as this. Yeah, there's a learning curve, you should pick it up within a meeting or two, but yeah, once you're in it, you're doing it, it's fine. And again, there are 9 people working with you, nobody's overburdened. Okay, now entertaining nominations for secretaries. There are 2 positions. Entertaining nominations for secretaries again.
I would like to nominate Pat Mazuka.
Pat Mazuka.
That's what
Do we
I
have a
was
second?
You cut it off at the base.
Do you have a second, John? You're seconding. Do you accept, Pat?
I do not, but thank you.
Thank you. Nominations for secretaries. Come on, we have somebody to record our pearls of wisdom. Come on. Lee, how do you Lee?
Yes, I second that.
I haven't thought about it. I mean, can I say yes and think about it? Because I really.
Yes.
Yes.
It has not been in my mind.
It's.
That's right. Thank you for considering it. We appreciate that. Tony.
I nominate John Sedlak.
Second. We have second. John Semlak. Do you accept?
I'll accept that one. I've done mine 4 years. I'll be sending my last emails to committee chairs.
Mr. Semlak respectfully declines.
I do. Thank you very much for the honor.
Come on, people. Give me another secretary.
Yes.
AJ.
I nominate Ish.
Yes, I was just gonna say that. You beat me to it, AJ. I second Mitch Palooza as secretary. Okay, what makes you think that? I'll get you up work, so yeah, you take
So we have a second and it's being considered. Okay, come on. Do we have any more? Any more? Going once. Going twice. Okay. And the members at large, there are 3 members at large. And the best way to describe it, if you wanted to talk about an entry-level position for board service, this is perhaps the most free-floating of all of the board positions. It's very much involved in working with the committees, where committees might need assistance, where committees need a better line of communication with the board to get jobs done, to accomplish goals, and sometimes can be just follow up on what your passion is, what you want to do, or address a specific need where there might be a shortfall in service to the GANYC membership. I see John and can't wait to get somebody nominated. Go, John.
I believe this person isn't here, but I'd like to know you Wang.
You Wang, okay. Do we have will someone second that?
Second.
All right, we have to find out who this is. Okay. Do we have another
Jeremy?
nomination?
I also think this person is not here, but I would like to nominate Michaela Fagan for member.
Michaela Fagan?
Second.
Second, great. She's not here. Michael?
Yeah, I think this would be really good for GANYC and for him. I'd like to nominate Gary Dennis.
Thank you, I was gonna do that next, so yes, second.
Okay.
And yes, Dave?
Right. For member at large, I'd like to nominate Beth Goff.
Second, is there a second? Do you accept the nomination?
Sure, yeah. And I would like to nominate, I know he's not here tonight, I'd like to nominate Joseph Landon.
Second. Wow, yes. For what?
For member at large.
Member at large.
Member at large.
Any more nominations for member at large?
I'd like to nominate Adam Guy.
Member at large.
Second.
You decline?
I'm still building a one-year business. That's what
Oh, come on, they got plenty of time.
Wait, you're a full member, right?
25 hours in the next 25 weeks.
So, good.
And?
You know, we talk about how do we find people who can juggle the needs of being a guide and being on the board. Just look for a busy guide. That's the person you want. And not okay, we'll get after you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Any more nominations for member at large? All right, yes. Do we have a second?
Second.
More than Mary. And now we'll also have to email everyone to see if they'll.
Oh, yeah. All right.
I nominate Anna McDermott again.
Anna McDermott, second.
It is seconded, and you are declining?
Second? I second it. Lee?
You're very popular.
Well, that's very kind of everybody. I'm honored. Thank you very much. Do I need to pick between them?
Not at this time. As you did indicate you'd like time to consider the previous nomination, would you like time to consider this nomination?
Yes.
All right, well, I'll be harassing you in about a week. Michael?
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Robin Gar.
Second,
Is there a second? She's not here, right?
She's not here. Maybe she'll do it.
So.
I'd like to nominate Amy Cook.
Amy Cook?
Yeah, second.
Anyone else? Anybody else?
So we could read all the nominees. Oh, sorry, John, sorry.
This may or may not be accepted, but I'd like to nominate
AJ, all right. Second.
I respectfully decline. For the third election in a row.
All right, fourth time's the charm.
Well, keep that next to your years.
Last call, nominations. All right, I'm going to read the list of nominations that we have at this time. And again, names can be submitted by email to board@ganyc.org through the month of October. So for president, we have Jeremy Wilcox. Vice president,
2 positions.
2 positions. Kit Garrett, pending acceptance. Michael Morgenthau, pending acceptance. Beth Goff, accepted. Kevin Lawrence, pending acceptance. Treasurer, Sarah Lyons! Very happy about this. I can say that because I'm not running for office. Secretaries, of which there were 2. We have 2 nominations. We have Lee Hellingby. And, I'm sorry, Mitch, was it?
Palooza, right there.
Yeah, I didn't get your last, I don't know your last name. Thank you. And board members, this is lengthy. Pending acceptance, Yu Wang. Pending acceptance, Mikhail Fagan. Gary Dennis has accepted. Beth Bell has accepted. Pending acceptance, Joe Drew Landon. Lee Hellingby, pending acceptance. Robin Garr, pending acceptance. Amy Cook, pending acceptance. Matt Baker, pending acceptance. Any other names you want to throw into that? Okay, again, accepting nominations through October. And we will see all of our candidates on stage in November. Now, about the November event, it is at the regular membership meeting, which will be at West Park, I believe. We're at West Park Church. You're not required to make a statement to the membership, but it's a good idea. You will be open to questions if you're making a statement from on the stage. If you are a nominee and you cannot attend the November meeting, you can have someone read it for you. It's not required, by the way. This statement, it's a great idea. You should do it if you're running for office, but it's not required. If you do want to make a statement but you can't attend, you can delegate someone to do it for you. And all candidates are welcome to send their statements to the elections committee, of which I'm one. You can reach me through secretary@ganyc.org, and it will be posted on the discussion pages of the GANYC website. So you'll have every opportunity to reach out to the membership to make your case why you should be on the board. Bless you. Jeremy.
I know you all have a few months left, but I just actually want to take this opportunity to thank Emma, Jonathan, John, and Ann, and all the other members who have served on this board, and Beth, who may be coming back, to thank you all for your work. And Patrick,
we should bear in mind that that goal has often gone, in my memory, unfilled. It's probably the least desired work position, and the person who deals with a lot of abuse is responsible for money, so Cheryl will not.
Don't let her change her mind. Yeah, Jeremy has done the most amazing job, so thank you, Jeremy.
All right, so now we will resume with the regular business of the meeting, going into our committee reports.
Great, and you will all get, everybody, the whole organization will get an email with all the nominees from tonight, and then we'll be able to add them.
Just a question, it doesn't mean that we cannot add to the list
Yes.
by email.
Yes, you can add to the list via email, board@GANYC.org. And then we also have, actually, I'll make sure to reactivate the election. We have a designated election email, and I don't remember if it's election or elections at GANYC.org.
And we have to wake it up every year.
Yeah, we have to wake it up every year.
Servers
That's good.
around anyway.
Change the forwarders.
Anybody else? Last call for questions.
You guys are good? All righty. Cool, thank you, Patrick. Thank you so much. Okay, so now we'll move on to our committee reports. First up, awards anniversary. Cheryl.
Hi, gang. So I am here to make a very brief announcement, which is that just yesterday, the 50th anniversary party had its first official meeting altogether, and it went so incredibly well. This is a team of rock stars. I think you're going to be really proud of what we're putting together. And while I do not have any specific details about said party to announce yet, we have every conceivable ball rolling directly towards an exciting destination. Now, so far, the committee consists of myself, my co-chair Ann McDermott, as well as Patrick Casey, Susan Birnbaum, Gary Dennis, Nina Mende, Mark Levy, Catherine Hill, Deborah Blau, AJ Stevens, Susan Solar, and Bob Gelber. Now, if that sounds like an exciting time to you, I want to emphasize that our meetings are open. We'll be meeting monthly on Tuesdays to be determined. But if that sounds like a Zoom room you want to be in, please let us know. We are always welcome to having this here because we want to emphasize that this party is not just celebrating GANYC as an institution, it's celebrating you, and your feedback is super important to us. And even if you don't want to attend monthly meetings or take on the task lists that we set for ourselves every month, we will be reaching out to membership in the near future, asking for your experiences in GANYC and interviews, as well as looking for help to reach out to potential sponsors and things like that. So please be on the lookout for that as well, and I hope you look forward to our November meeting where we will have a lot of exciting announcements for you. Thank you very much. Also, does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Is there a date set for the party yet?
There is not yet. We are still working on collating all of the various schedules of GANYC and the other related organizations to make sure we don't conflict with any major events. For example, the first full week of February isn't really going to work out for us because of trip school events that are happening there. Those pieces are falling into place, and we're doing a couple of site visits to narrow down exactly where our venue is going to be. But we have some exciting options. I think you're going to like them. Yes.
Do you have it down to a month yet?
We are going to be operating within the usual period that the awards ceremony happens. So we're looking at mid to late February or early March. So it'll be in that same time slot. What we love about it is it gives our committee plenty of time during the busy season to do the last minute stuff without feeling like we're gonna fall over. And it's before the busy season picks back up again. So we'll be able to get as many people as possible coming to celebrate GANYC's 50th anniversary. Yeah. Also, if anything in here interests you, or if you have any other questions, my email address is sarahlyons1993@gmail.com. It's my first name, last name, birth year, makes it a little easier. If that's too much to remember, I am still answering the awards@ganyc.org emails. You can also reach out through there or to membership to reach Anne. And no matter what, it will get to all of us. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Jonathan, for the Constitutional Committee.
So this isn't really well This isn't a constitutional issue, this is a bylaws issue. So all of you should have received an email on September 23rd regarding a bylaws change. It's a fairly important bylaws change. We just approved this in the last board meeting and wanted to send this out to you. It is an important component of bylaws changes that the membership is allowed a period of time to comment on this, which helps to inform the board as to whether this bylaws change makes sense, is practical, and that allows us some time to reconsider it if it needs to be reconsidered. I think we all agreed that this was a fairly significant bylaw change for a number of different reasons. It was needed, but we got no feedback. So maybe the email didn't get to you, in which case I'm going to read it to you right now. It's actually pretty basic. This is the addition to the bylaw, quote, in order to preserve the association's financial stability, within each board's term, dues are raised at least once by an amount determined prudent by the board. So what this essentially means in an interpretive statement, which if you vote in New York City, you understand the interpretive statements if you read the ballots. Jersey too, that's true. I forgot. Trying to pretend I don't live in New Jersey. We believe at the board that there should be a regular process of assessing inflation, assessing the different cost increases that the organization faces, and there ought to be a commitment by each board to address that by raising the dues by an appropriate amount. That does not mean that there's going to be a $75 or $50 increase every board term. There could be a minimal increase if everything remains stable. All that this does is require that each board take the responsibility to evaluate both the budget and the inflationary climate in New York City and act appropriately. In a lot of cases, it could potentially be easier, politically say, for example, for the board to simply ignore that and leave it to the next board to address. That's not the case in this most recent dues increase because we had a hiatus because of COVID, which I think we all agree is eminently reasonable. But this catch-up period, we heard in the room that there were some gasps at the degree to which the dues were being raised. And that's completely understandable. And the purpose of this bylaws change is hopefully to address that by making sure the board keeps track on a biennial basis. And so that's the purpose of this. But we are, again, very open to feedback. And if there's anybody here who has thoughts or feedback right now, I just do want to say that the board remains open to feedback. So if you've been having conversation with people and they've been telling you, oh, I read this thing, but I didn't know what to do about it, they can always email board@ganyc.org. So Gary first.
First of all, I think it's a great idea because it gives you an out or in, depending on how you want to look at it. That you have the right, the board has the right to do it. But I also did not know that you expected feedback. Was that a thing? You wanted feedback?
Yeah, I think it said it down at the bottom of the email.
And my comments never wrote it. It was very clear that this is the bylaw.
The board encourages the membership to reach out to express any feedback regarding this change before the next scheduled board meeting. So again, if you're thinking about it now, you don't feel like raising your hand and saying in public, that feedback period is open until October 16th.
Point of information from your local friendly parliamentarian. The procedure for bylaw changes is in your constitution. This is not something new that we conjured for this one. It is a standing procedure in the Constitution of the Guides Association of New York City.
Michael.
My other question on this is, isn't there also a procedure that the dues are discussed at the AGM? So is this going to be tied into that? Because I don't hear that in.
So all the other aspects of the dues changes remain the same. That's a great point. I forgot to mention that. They are still going to be voted on at the AGM. So it does not vacate the voting process. The voting process still continues. It's really a bylaw change that affects specifically the board, and it directs them to consider increasing dues at least once during that two-year period.
As coming towards the AGM, that's what I'm taking up, but, yeah.
Yep.
Chairman?
Yeah, just to clarify, it's required of the board to submit some sort of due proposal, whether it's $1, $10, $20, $50. At the AGM, as we did last month, the membership votes on whether to approve the proposed dues change. If the board, if a future board proposes a dues change the membership doesn't like, still all have the authority to vote it down, which would send the board back to square one.
Yep. And it doesn't require that the board increase the dues twice during that two-year board period, just once.
Just once within those 2 years. And what our thought with this, and this was a big discussion at the board level, was that this keeps issues of inflation, of costs, of the different costs that GANYC's incurring, all of that remind us of them, and so we don't have to wait till the last minute and just do a big jump that was, sort of sticker shock that we all felt a little bit. But it becomes more incremental. And so it could be a very small increase, it could be a big increase, or if, we have another plate, we could skip it if we have to, But that, COVID, something big is a bigger kind of issue, but this puts it on the board's radar. This becomes part of the bylaws.
It also, it makes it easier to increase the dues if necessary. Look at it this way, it's one of the least attractive things for a board to gather, looking at a budget and think, we've got to raise the dues. Nobody wants to be the one to say that. Once this bylaw becomes part of how GANYC handles its budget, nobody has to worry about that. No one has to be that person who has to raise the specter of raising the dues. It's an obligation to the entire board. And by putting it in the bylaws, it is the obligation of the entire membership to consider it. And you always still have the option to vote down an increase at the AGM. This just requires that the board, no personalities involved, no guilt involved, no greed involved, no narcissism involved, must consider an appropriate increase.
John?
I think one really good analogy is to think about how subway fares were not increased over the many decades of early service, and that resulted in all kinds of financial problems for that. And of course, nobody wants to be the person that proposes a increase in that because it's such a something that does affect people, and so we want the board and any future board, and I'm not going to be on the board, to have we want them to understand that it is their obligation to look after the financial health of GANYC by reviewing the dues that we pay. So I think of it that way, because if we don't have that obligation, we might just let the dues stay at a flat rate for